Hello, this is part 2 of Grand Staircase Escalante Partners Trail Ambassador Training Program. In this part of the training, we are going to discuss the safety concerns of the Trail Ambassador Program. A transcript of this training is available at bit.ly/trailambassador2. If you have questions about the training itself, contact Caitlin Martin at caitlin@gsenm.org. If you have not watched part 1 of this training, stop this video and go back to part 1. You can find part 1 at the link on this slide or by searching for Honoring the Land Trail Ambassador Training Part 1 in YouTube. As a reminder, you will need to fill out the Google form that goes along with this training, which includes questions to test your understanding and your preferences as a volunteer. The Google form is available at bit.ly/newtrailambassadorform. All of this information is also available in the YouTube video notes below. All of the information in this training program, along with some other details about the Trail Ambassador program, can be found in the Trail Ambassador Handbook, which can be found at bit.ly/trailambassadorhandbook, or on our website at gsenm.org/volunteer. We recommend that all Trail Ambassadors read through this handbook before going out on their first field day as an ambassador. We'll also include a copy of the handbook within your field day packet, which will include all other Trail Ambassador educational and guide materials. Training is going to discuss general safety tips and protocols for Grand Staircase Escalante Partners Trail Ambassador Program. Before becoming Trail Ambassadors, volunteers will need to sign a release of liability waiver. This waiver generally states that GSEP is not reliable for any injuries to yourself or your property while volunteering for GSEP. It is important to note that activities associated with being a Trail Ambassador are inherently dangerous and carry an element of risk. If you are not willing to sign this waiver, you will not be allowed to participate as a volunteer or Trail Ambassador. When volunteering as a Trail Ambassador, you will encounter strangers, extreme weather, bad roads, and if you choose to hike, rough terrain. The best thing you can do to keep yourself safe when volunteering is to make good decisions, trust your gut, and play it safe. We would like to emphasize that GSEP does not expect ambassadors to engage in any activities in which they do not feel comfortable or are outside their ability level. One very important aspect of keeping safe while volunteering as a Trail Ambassador is to plan ahead and be prepared for field days. The 4 things you should always make sure you have in check before heading out to do a volunteer event is having a communication plan with a personal contact and GSEP staff, having all the needed supplies, having an understanding of the terrain you're going into, and having a plan in the event of an emergency. Step 1 in the GSEP Trail Ambassador Safety Plan is to have a solid communication plan. Before heading out for service days, volunteers should let a personal contact know where they are going, what they are doing, and when they plan on being back. They should also make sure to check back in with this person at the end of the day when they return home or to wherever they are staying if not a local resident. Additionally, ambassadors should confirm their completion of field days with GSEP staff by texting or emailing the most relevant staff person at departure and upon safe return. If at any point a volunteer identifies a need to vary from the original itinerary, like due to weather or a personal issue, they should contact GSEP staff as soon as possible to inform them of the change. This means volunteers should contact Caitlin if they have to cancel their scheduled field day short notice, if they have to leave the site early or their return is delayed for a non-emergency reason, or if they need any non-emergency resources or support. As will be detailed later in this training, in the event of an emergency, you should always contact emergency services by calling 911 or activating the SOS button on a personal safety device like a Garmin InReach or Spot device. Step 2 in the Trail Ambassador Safety Plan is making sure that volunteers have the necessary equipment for the day. Ambassadors should wear their Honoring the Land ambassador hat and an ambassador vest while they are volunteering. The hats are personal items, while the vest will be provided in return with other equipment for the scheduled field day. For days that volunteers wish to be stationed at a trailhead, GSUP will provide volunteers with a shade structure, chairs, educational materials, and water for both the volunteers and the public. Volunteers are responsible for personal items such as insulation like jackets, sun protection, sunscreen, long sleeves, and nutrition like personal food for the day. When volunteers are engaging with visitors while hiking, educational materials and supplies are provided by GSEP, while volunteers are responsible for all personal hiking gear. We recommend the following list as a baseline of appropriate preparation for a day trip. If volunteers need help procuring personal gear, they can contact GSEP to check out gear from our gear library. Navigation aids like a map and compass and phone with GPS. GSEP will provide area-specific paper maps. Sun protection such as sunglasses, sunscreen, and/or lightweight long-sleeve shirts. Insulation, typically in the form of extra clothing. Illumination, such as a headlamp or flashlight. First aid supplies including whistle, tweezers, band-aids, and bug spray. A repair kit and tools including duct tape and paracord. Nutrition for the day plus a small amount of extra food. Hydration. Volunteers should plan on drinking 1 quart per 2 hours of hiking. An emergency shelter, like a tarp or emergency blanket. And an emergency location device, like a spot or inReach. This is strongly recommended, though not required, to participate as a trail ambassador. Step 3 in the safety plan is having a good understanding of the type of terrain you will be working in as a trail ambassador. The Trail Ambassador Volunteer Program can either be mellow or strenuous and can be tailored to each volunteer's ability level. Volunteers that would like to hike the trails may need to walk for extended periods of time over rough terrain in hot and cold temperatures, carrying up to a 25-pound pack. Hiking in Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument requires the ability to scramble along slick rock and hike through deep sand. Though many trail ambassador assignments are on heavily used trails, route finding in certain areas can be difficult, and proficiency in desert navigation and reading maps is recommended. Hiking the trails, trail ambassadors should do the following before their volunteer day, especially if they are unfamiliar with the area they will be volunteering. Do research on the internet or in guidebooks. Look at maps and create a hiking plan for the day. And if you have the time, hike in the area before your volunteer day. If you have questions about the area you are volunteering, feel free to reach out to GSEP staff. We will provide all trail ambassadors with area information, including maps and trail conditions, before each trail ambassador event. When hiking, ambassadors should take very few risks and should be more conservative in their decision making, especially around weather and hiking difficulty, than they may be when hiking on their own time. Again, GSEP does not expect ambassadors to engage in any activities in which they do not feel comfortable or outside their ability level, and does not expect ambassadors to fulfill a scheduled full-day commitment if environmental conditions are hazardous. In the Trail Ambassador Safety Plan is to have a plan for emergency situations. While trail ambassadors are encouraged to be especially cautious and conservative in decision making while volunteering, there is of course the chance of unanticipated adverse events. In the case of medical emergencies, contact emergency services directly as soon as possible. This might look like calling 911 if you have cell service, activating the SOS button on an emergency location device, or, if possible, moving yourself to the nearest area with cell service to call 911 if you do not have an emergency location device. In the event of an illness or injury for which you may need assistance but is not a life threat, you may choose to contact Search and Rescue via King or Garfield County Dispatch directly. We recommend that you pause the video and save these contacts in your phone. King County, Alan Allredge, Director of Emergency Services. Phone is 435-644-4995. And Garfield County, James D. Perkins, Junior Sheriff. Phone is 435 676 2678. In non-emergency situations, you may contact GSUB staff for guidance or assistance with contacting search and rescue. We recommend that you pause the video and save Caitlin's cell phone number in your phone, 406-431-0218. If you have an emergency location device, you may also choose to save GSUB staff cell phone numbers or email addresses as contacts within that device to send messages in the event of a non-emergency. We do request that trail ambassadors get a Utah Search and Rescue Assistance card. Read more about this card in the Trail Ambassador Manual. While volunteering as a trail ambassador, you may come upon someone else needing help. We do not expect or require you to respond to emergency situations that do not involve yourself. However, if you choose to do so, here are some things to keep in mind. Utah is not a state in which laws require individuals to help if aware of emergencies. Utah does have a Good Samaritan law, which states that a person who renders emergency care at or near the scene of or during an emergency gratuitously and in good faith is not liable for any civil damages or penalties as a result of any act or omission by the person rendering the emergency care, unless the person is grossly negligent or caused the emergency. In order for Good Samaritan law to apply, a few conditions must be met. The person offering emergency care must not have caused the emergency. The person offering care should ask permission from the injured or ill person. If the person is unconscious, consent is implied. Care must be given in good faith or in a non-reckless manner. The individual offering care should only offer care that intends to help and that should not be postponed until medical services arrive. Additionally, for the Good Samaritan law to apply, the person offering care must be doing so without compensation and without pre-existing duty to care for the patient, such as a guide-customer relationship, which falls under the company's liability laws, not Good Samaritan laws. Though you are not required to begin assisting someone in the event of emergency, if you do begin assisting someone, you should continue that assistance until an emergency responder or someone with higher medical training than you arrives. If you have training and certifications, such as wilderness first aid or wilderness first responder, you should not pass off care to someone with less medical training or certification. For example, if you have a wilderness first responder certification, you can pass care to a wilderness EMT or a training above that, like a paramedic, but you should not pass care to someone with basic first aid or wilderness first aid. While volunteering as a trail ambassador, you may also come into contact with individuals who are doing illegal activity, such as leaving graffiti or looting an archaeological site. If you observe some kind of illegal activity, do not confront individuals engaging in that activity. If it is safe to do so, you may take photos or gather details or leave the situation and then promptly write down all details you remember. You should contact BLM staff directly to share your observations. You can email description and photos to tnelson@blm.gov. Please include any observed illegal or suspicious activity in your end-of-day report to GSUB, including confirmation that you sent the information to BLM staff. Again, safety is our top priority, and we do not expect trail ambassadors to engage in any activities in which they do not feel comfortable or outside their ability level. Thank you for volunteering as a trail ambassador and for watching this training video. Please fill out the questions for video 2 in the Google form and move on to video 3 about the educational content of the Trail Ambassador program.